Welcome to another episode of Tectonic. I'm Usher, and today we're exploring AI hype versus AI reality and what's really working in the enterprise with Eric Vaughan, the CEO of Ignite Tech, GFI Software, and Khoros. He's a true pioneer in AI-driven digital clones and has led some impressive AI-first transformations. He's also a writer, tech educator, and a passionate runner who's completed like 50 plus marathons and ultramarathons together. That's an achievement, Eric. And welcome to the show. It's great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Asher. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So I always knew about marathons, but I never knew about ultra marathons. And I had to
Yeah.
like look it up and see what that really is. So my question first is you're running three companies and you still find time for ultra marathons. I mean, what's harder, running a 100-mile run or turning around a tech company?
Yeah. A lot of people aren't familiar with ultra marathons. It technically is anything over the 26.2 mile distance, literally. So 50 Ks, 50 miles, 100 Ks, and then 100 milers. And there's even some 200 milers out there and
Wow.
some other extreme things. It's super interesting. You say, what's harder or turning around a tech company? They're different. They're super completely different. But I will say that the ultra marathon mindset that you have to adapt has certainly helped me in a lot of professional cases because it teaches you to just stick to it no matter what. The biggest challenge in long distance running is this little guy that sits on your shoulder the whole time saying, we don't want to be doing this. We can stop. Like, it's okay. You could
Right.
just quit. Like, yeah, maybe you didn't train hard enough. Like, at some point, you've got to like flick it off your shoulder and just say, that's it. And I'm going. And sometimes it's like that with a business. I will say the AI transformation of our companies. You mentioned the word pioneer, which sounded a little funny, but it certainly was at the very early part. It was early 2023 where we woke up and said, oh my God, we've got to change everything. And we were figuring things out as we went. There was no
Right.
blueprint. There
Yeah.
was no blueprint. There were not other companies that we could point to and say, oh, that's the way that we're doing it. And we made some really bold declarations that 100% clear weren't sure we were correct. We believed we were, but we didn't know.
All
But
right.
I think it's kind of the same thing. You don't know if you should finish that 100 miler, but you just keep going and then
Going.
you finish and you figure that out. You kind of figure
Yeah.
things out along the way. So, yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
it's transferable in some ways.
I think at the end of the day, it's all about consistency and just keep, kind of moving forward where you can
Well,
achieve success in both places.
yeah, I would say beyond consistency, it's about unwavering belief, right? I mean, great things are often accomplished when you believe you see something and you just stay on that path. You're willing to listen and you are willing to alter course, but you're also not willing to just give up when you encounter resistance. And such was the case. I mean, we had a cultural transformation within our companies that resulted in many cases some people having to leave the company, even though they had been here
Right.
for years and were
Wow.
remarkable at their jobs, but they were just like arms folded and like, I'm not going to do this. It's like, you're not going to do it. Oh no. Well, that's not going to work for us, right? So it's kind of the same. You just got to keep believing and stay your course, I think. I think that's when great things get accomplished oftentimes.
So I had this question later down, but now since you've mentioned it, that there was a huge cultural shift kind of happening and taking place. A lot of leaders, what I've seen is right now in the rush to implement AI, they kind of overlook the human side of the equation, right? So
Yep.
establishing that culture, that trust, that collaboration. So how did you go about it, putting all of that together?
Yeah, well, we started with the humans. Like we made an announcement. Like it took over an all hands meeting. We have all
Okay.
hands regularly, just like, all companies. And typical all hands had been, how did we do last quarter? What are the goals for this quarter? I'm sorry, now it looks like a boring agenda, but that was kind of our all hands format for a lot of companies. And we just put a big X on the agenda, literally for drama on the slide deck. We put a big X, said, nope, that's not what
Uh,
we're talking about. Here's what we're talking about. The whole world has changed and we have to change. We see this very clearly as an existential threat to the existence of our company. And by the way, for every other company around us, we don't want that to happen. We're going to change. I've got over 3 decades of experience in the tech industry. And the tech industry, we're famous for telling everybody that the latest thing is the most important thing ever and it's going to change lives and everything else. And oftentimes that is overhyped. It is. Didn't believe that this one was. And the main reason why was it's like that movie from a couple of years ago that won all the Oscars. Everything, everywhere, all at once. That's what was happening. This was going to change business, healthcare, the legal profession, nonprofits, education. Like there's no place this doesn't
Impact.
touch.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. And so
It's
we had to change.
Yeah, it's a revolution very similar to the 90s, right? So you had your internet coming in, and it's
Yep.
something on a very similar scale. Before that, I think the transition. So if you look back at history, you've always, this major transition was from mainframe to home computers, PCs, personal computers, laptops. And then you had like 2, 3 decades where the PC concept was just evolving. So no major change as such, but personal computer concept. And then the internet was a radical change. After that, you had social media as a news channel and all medias and everything. And then this basically is as much big as when internet came in and then got into the hands of people.
That's
But
right.
now your have distribution is so strong, you have knowledge going out so strong that the adoption of this technology is like 100x faster than the adoption of internet or those things. I mean, even in developing countries, even in far-fetched areas, GPT is there. So yeah.
Yeah, I refer to all these as, and
Okay.
it was one of the things that I labeled back in 2023 at Gen AI Expo. I said there have been 5 tectonic shifts in the tech industry. I don't know. I just kind of like the way that sounded. Tectonic, tecton, right? The first one was the internet, 100%. The internet suddenly democratized access to information, made it
Yep.
available
Correct.
regardless of what platform it was running on, regardless of what operating system it was running on. You suddenly got interconnect. Number two then was the personal computer. The personal computer democratized computing because, as you
Yep.
mentioned, the mainframe used to keep everything in one little spot and you had to come ask for it. If you worked at a
Correct.
company, you had to ask for your data and your reports. So suddenly we were putting computers on your desktop and you could do your own work, right?
Yep.
Number three then was the browser, which took the internet and made the information readily accessible to people. So that now democratized data in a way that made it really easy. You just typed it in a URL and you got it, where before you used to have to download files and email files and things like that. Number four was the iPhone. I see the iPhone as a substantial tectonic shift because it
Yep.
put a computer in people's pocket and all these things, internet plus, iPhone. iPhone was, in fact, it wasn't me, it was Jensen Huang who said, this is the iPhone moment for AI. And that was number five. Number five, AI democratized AI, GPT, Chat GPT
Yes.
democratized AI. AI is not new, been around for decades. We've been doing machine learning and AI for years, but your neighbor didn't, your grandmother didn't, your 8-year-old daughter didn't, but
That's true.
suddenly Chat GPT made AI available to everybody. So it's this common thread of democratizing. When you take tech and you make it suddenly available to everybody on a wide basis, you get incredible adoption, and then things just kind of virally grow. And that's what's happened here.
Absolutely. No, that's 100%. I think this access to all this technology at a $20 per month subscription, I think it has made it really crazy. And yeah, so this fear of actually impacting everybody. You always had this fear, right? So remember the time when spreadsheets came and everybody was talking like that, hey, you'll never need accountants now. No, that would happen. Similarly, I think here, but yes, there's a certain transfer of mundane tasks, but then there will be a certain group of people who would grow 20x if they are able to leverage the power of AI successfully. And I guess, that's the core message that everybody has to explain to their team and, make sure that they understand that while they are kind of trying to adopt the overall change. All
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
So
It's
perfect.
100% right. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
You pointed
So
out you would never need accountants anymore. Do we have fewer accountants? I don't think we do.
no,
This is
no, we
this
don't.
is a key point you just made. It's a key
Yes.
point. We always fear the unknown. We're always scared to death of the unknown. And when we're scared, we tell scary stories. We
Correct.
say, this is going to happen. Like, I have tremendous faith in humans. Humans always figure this stuff out. We were afraid of the internet too, and we figured it
Yes.
out. We will
Yes.
adapt to this too, and we are. We're already starting to adapt it. And
Yes.
our particular approach to helping customers adapt that is keeping them not only in the loop, but making them the controller of the AI, which is the way we advocate AI use. We advocate it being this wonderful assistant to help you do things, not you gave it something and it's out making decisions and not consulting you and like running your company. Like, no, that's
Yes,
not.
that's true. Before we dive deep, I would like to, kind of clear the air on the jargon a little bit. So when we say AI first transformation, what does that exactly mean? Everybody is like throwing out AI terms there. So what
Yeah.
does this what it means for you and how you think that what it means? Yeah.
Well, for any listeners of this podcast, if they want to know the detailed answer, they can go to ignitetech.ai/BAI first. And at that URL is a conversation that I had with ChatGPT back in 2023 that said, I'm getting ready to hire a bunch of people that are going to be AI first. Help me define what that means very clearly. Long,
Okay.
long conversation that they can look at. Quick summary is you first think of AI to do anything. You first ask yourself the question, in what way could I bring AI into this? And this is something we all struggle with. We've been doing things the same way for years, in our natural inclination is to go back to doing it the way we've done it. And then you go, well, wait a minute. Why am I like going over here and saying, what do you think? So, you get better and better and better at that. And I will give you an example. You mentioned in the opening, I'm a writer. I have been a writer for decades. I used to write columns in magazines. And that's something that I always felt like I was pretty good at, maybe not the best writer, but pretty good. Okay. I don't write anything anymore. I don't write anything anymore. I don't write a complex email. I don't write a legal document. I don't write, not from scratch, not on a blank page. Now,
Yeah.
I might start with the rough edges that has the most important meaning that I want, but then I go give it to AI and say, help me polish it, make it be more consistent. Let's just start with the simplest thing, typos.
Right.
There's no excuse for typos in 2025. And at Ignite Tech, everybody knows that. If somebody in the marketing department creates some content and says, what do you think? And there's a typo, I'm not kidding, they're fired. Why? Because AI would catch every typo. It just means you didn't take 30 seconds to check
To
it for
run it
typos.
through.
At least check it for typos.
Yeah.
But Ashar, I'm getting this from attorneys. I'm getting this from our attorneys who are, highly educated, super incredible attorneys writing complex things. And I had an email. I shared this at a conference. I was speaking at a CEO conference early April. And I shared the actual email. I redacted the name. So, it was anonymous. But it was literally an email. He said, hey, Eric, here's the draft settlement agreement. I think I got most of the typos out, but I'm still looking. And I wrote him back and I said, why do you still have typos? If you just fed this into AI, it would find 100% of the typos. Even if you don't want it to work on the language because you don't trust it yet,
Yes.
it'll find your typos. He said, yeah, you're right. I really should. Like that's AI first. AI first is where can I bring it in to my work stream, whatever work I'm doing, drafting a settlement agreement, writing code, debugging code, analyzing an interview. I've used it for hiring. I have transcripts of my interviews and I go download the transcripts of the interviews and I go feed multiple candidates into AI and say, here's the job
Which
description.
one? Yeah.
Here's
So
the
which one do
conversations. Help me find insight. Let me see. And it's unbelievable at its ability to find nuances in languages and spot red flags. Like it's amazing. So yeah, that's
yeah,
a long answer to your simple question.
no, that's actually a pretty good idea. Doing
Great.
that, yeah, it's just a great idea. So the idea really is like the word said AI first. So whatever you're about to do, think AI can help me here. How can it help me? And you get to modify your workflow or making that part of the process, right? There's this concept of bolt-on versus actual real transformation.
Yeah,
So right, so
100%. Yeah.
yeah, and in some cases, then we have this entire discussion, and in some cases, we say yes, absolutely, AI can be used as a bolt-on, where you're drafting legal documents, you're drafting emails, you're doing all of this. That's just a bolt-on to your process. But then you have certain internal systems which have to improve, and you have to kind of start off with that understanding the exact problem of what we are looking to solve, and then that's where the second kind of layer of transformation starts happening. So
Yeah, that's
absolutely,
right. No, you're right. You're right. In the early days, we all did it. I mean,
yes,
we did it. We slapped on, we bolted on like, hey, we put some AI on. It's like, yeah, but it's not really useful and nobody really cares because we were all learning, right? I mean,
yeah,
as you mentioned, we're pioneers because it's a frontier and we're all just starting. We've certainly learned that just offering up AI for AI's sake is, of course, not useful to people. So you've got to find something that really does derive a benefit. And I think we're much better
right,
at that now to not do that. Like,
right,
unfortunately, I think Copilot, that word got a bad brand because Copilot was
yes.
kind of bolt on by definition. I'm not talking about
Yeah,
Microsoft specifically. I mean, just generically, people said, I've got a Copilot and it's free. And you're like, and it
yeah,
should be free because it really doesn't do much for me,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So,
yeah. No, absolutely. I think everything starts from it was more of an assistant than it went on to individual, and then. But yes, I guess that's the right way to put it. It's co-pilot when it started, when people started really thinking of it as a bolt-on moment.
but
So
now we're redesigning software and we're
correct. Yes.
recreating software where in some cases we're taking existing software and completely rewriting it with AI to do the same function. Like throw the old code base out and just there are people you'll find them online. They like have created a version of Slack, for example, in two
Yeah.
days. Is it perfect? No. Does it have everything Slack does? No. Most of the functions it actually does in many cases,
Yes.
and there's lots of
Can
cases of this out
Yeah.
there, right? So
Can I save $1,000 a month for my 100 employees? Absolutely.
maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Right. So
maybe,
have that.
maybe where you see the hole in that, while that is absolutely capable, is we still believe and we see that there needs to be kind of a software mentality wrapped around that. So I see AI startup doing that, like, hey, I reproduced this product in 3 days, and like, yeah, but you don't understand how to support it, you don't understand
That's true.
authentication, you don't understand security problem because you're an AI startup. So you kind of still need an enterprise mentality around it for large businesses. And that's
Correct.
where we come in, right? We're an
Yeah.
enterprise software company with an AI innovation engine inside of it.
Yeah,
That's our differential.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think you can. So even if with all these tools, I mean, the best example is Cursor, right? So Cursor itself has 80 engineers. They're doing something, right? So I'm sure they're using Cursor to develop Cursor, but at the end of the day, there's a human force behind that is developing Cursor or Lovable, or for that matter, all of these code writing tools. And
Or
and
or
and this is
Windsurf and
or
or Windsurf
Windsor,
that
yeah,
chat G, that OpenAI just paid three
just bought,
billion
right?
for sounds
Yeah.
like something we should pay attention to. I don't know if you saw the rumor yesterday. I want to go on record that I predicted this over 2 weeks ago. The rumor yesterday is that Apple is looking to buy Perplexity.
Yes, that's true.
Over two
Because
weeks ago, I predicted this internally. I told my team, I said, I
that's
see some
nice.
things that indicate that this might be happening. That'd be amazing if Apple was
I was
able to
able
put
to get that.
that
Correct.
kind of, because Perplexity is magnificent. It is
Yes.
magnificent. Erevan Srinivas has done an amazing job with Perplexity.
Yeah.
But are they ever going to have the girth to go out and displace Google? Are they ever going to have the money, the ability? With Apple, they would. Oh,
They
would
have to
that
work
be? That'll
because
be a
yeah, that
fun
was it.
battle if that happens.
Because
So
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Because all of
So
a sudden
hopefully,
you have
everybody, when you're
access.
listening to this 6 months from now and Apple has bought Perplexity, you can reflect on this conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And yeah, yeah, 100% because Apple is behind AI. So from a technology
sure.
perspective, and then
Yeah.
Apple doesn't have a search engine. All of a sudden gets two things in one, right? And once Google goes out, it's game on. You'll have a real challenger now. And Perplexity
Could be
gets a very strong foundational base and support and the money and the resources that they can to
and
really
the reach and the scale and all the
everything.
things
They
that
get
they do.
everything. I mean, if
Oh,
it
it'd be
comes on the
so
iPhone,
exciting. It'd be so
yeah, it'll
exciting.
be fun.
I
That would be
so
a
hope it happens. I'm a big fan of Apple and its products and always have been. They are absolutely behind. They know it. They misfired last year with Apple Intelligence. But
yeah.
to their credit, I will always give Apple credit for one thing. They never rush something out that's fit for their customers. They delay or they cancel or they change, and they've done that all through their history, but they don't usually deliver products that fall flat. Right. And they don't
Yeah.
want to do that here. So who knows? I hope it
Let's
happens.
see. Apple
Yeah.
became more of a hardware company than a software company in the last few years. And I think that was one of the core reasons they kind of got AI and all of those things. So, because they were focusing more on hardwares and that side, but that's just my personal opinion. But I think if they do this acquisition, they can very fairly quickly catch up. Although I do think Google knows
Sure.
search. Nobody knows better,
Nobody
search than
knows it
Google.
better, and
Nobody
they
better,
and
right?
listen, they've caught up with
So
Gemini. So yeah,
they've
no,
caught up with Gemini.
they've
So it's
caught
going to
up
be
with
a good
Gemini.
battle.
It's
There's
going
going
to
to
be
be a
a
good
battle.
battle.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, all right. So just a quick now, since we talked about the history a little bit, what was your okay? This changes everything moment with AI. The point from where you went from curious to all in, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, this is going to be radical.
Well, I took note in October of 2022 when ChatGPT came out and we started working with it and experimenting it. But no, the light bulb had not gone off. It literally was Jensen Huang's statement that
Okay,
this is the iPhone moment for AI. I said, he's 100% right. I hadn't thought of it that way. We've got to get in gear really quick. Otherwise, we're going to get left behind. And
okay,
that really was my, if you want to call it, awakening. It was that statement. I thought he's 100% right. Now, of course, it was self-serving because they make GPUs that power this. I get it, but I thought he was right. I thought he was 100%
yeah,
right. And to his point, Ashar, when lay people, I'm a tech guy. Everybody knows I'm a tech guy. My friends, my family. When I start getting questions from people that are my friends and my family that aren't in the tech industry, then that's when you also know, right? I'll take the iPhone. My wife never wanted a smartphone ever back in the day when before iPhone, before 2007, we had, flip phones, and everybody loved their little flip phones and all that. I always had the little geeky ones with keyboards. I was sending emails. I loved all that. My
The
wife is like, don't you ever buy me one of those, like ever. I don't
Nokia
want that.
communicator and
Or the
Blackberries and
Trio. Remember the
the Trio.
Trio
Yeah, yeah.
out of the Palm line? I was a big
Yes.
fan. Or even BlackBerry. And then the iPhone came out. My wife's like, "Oh, I want one of those." Right. And so when that stuff starts happening, you pay attention, I think. And that was happening. I started hearing, "Have you heard of this thing called ChatGPT?" Yeah, why are you asking? It's like, well, that plus Jensen Huang's statement, I think, was kind of like, oh
Was
my
a
God, this is going to
key
change
moment.
everything
All
because
right.
it's the same. It's democratized. Whenever you democratize something, meaning by definition, you now make it available to almost everybody, regardless of any barrier, technology, price, whatever. Great things happen. They always have throughout history.
Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome. All right. One of the other things, I mean, there are so many surveys out there that talk about the ROI from AI, and then they kind of everybody gives some numbers. I don't know how they base it on, but they go like, it ranges anywhere from 20 to 30%. There's a 25% return on ROI investment in AI. There's a 20% return. There's a 35%. Some number comes up, and in your experience, why when do you think the AI projects fall short? What's usually the real culprit behind the failure
Well, I think there are
for
a
businesses
few.
and enterprises in general? Yeah,
Yeah, there are a few, but I'll highlight one in particular that I think is important. And this again was consistent with the message that I delivered to the CEO. It was called the CEO Summit back in April in Atlanta, April 2025. It has to come from the top down. The CEO has to believe it, has to decree it, and not only that, has to be involved in it. They can't delegate it to a tech team. They can't ask their CTO to go figure it out. They can't dabble in it. They can't run a little pilot project. I mean, it's kind of like the difference between commitment and participation, right? Consider a ham and egg breakfast, right? The chicken is involved by contributing eggs, but the pig is committed. You kind of need to be the pig. You got to be all in. You got to say, this is important. You have to believe it. You have to participate. You have to fund it. You have to create time. You have to make it a priority. You can't say, well, we've got a fill in the blank business to run. We'll look at that. It's got to be, we got to change the fill in the blank business to being an AI run company. Because Asha, we're not far from hearing about attorneys who are AI first, doctors that are AI first. We're not far from this, where you are going to start looking for a doctor that endorses the usage of AI in their practice, meaning they look up things and they learn themselves and they put questions in, or they give it to you to educate you and the like. The same with attorneys, right? So it's got to come from the top. And that I see that difference. I think participation at a lower level that doesn't involve everybody. And let me pick on another common problem. If you don't get if companies large and small don't get their legal people fully educated before those legal people write guidelines or write compliance rules, how can they write guidelines and compliance if they themselves don't
don't know.
understand what
Yeah,
they're talking about? And so they're, by definition, what they do is they just ban. They just say you
yeah,
can't. You
yeah.
can't. Now you've
Wow.
just said, here's one of the greatest tools in maybe the history of civilization. You can't use it. That's because they're not informed. That's their default position. Turn it off until we know. Well, how
Yeah.
about we just go no, and then we can decide what to do? And I'm not advocating freewheeling, turn everything on, don't worry about it. I'm not. I'm advocating informed decision making. And this starts at the top. So I've seen a lot of the surveys like you have, many of them. And oftentimes they're disappointed because they're misguided and they
Correct.
haven't led from the top. So
Yeah, absolutely. So if I had to add to it, I think the other factor that I've seen is a lot of times it's the shiny object syndrome as well, where you're just excited about adding the technology rather than really thinking, where do I add it? What do am I solving with it that can eventually lead to some project kind of falling short, right?
well,
So
I burst into a smile when you said that for the following reason. When I spoke at the CEO conference, I was the closing keynote of the day. The opening keynote was a very well known Fortune 50 CEO. I'm not going to name him, I'll just say that. And he gave kind of a fireside chat. He took questions from the audience. And I asked him a very specific question. And his response was, AI is the next shiny new toy. And I'm like, oh, you just gave me my opening line for my keynote this afternoon, which I said, I have to disagree with my esteemed colleague who said that. I know why he said it, but I think he's wrong. I think he's
yes.
absolutely wrong. And I think that's a terrible message to be giving your company. honestly.
Correct.
So yeah,
Yes.
that's why. Yeah, shiny
Yeah.
new toy.
Shiny
Yeah,
new
yeah,
toy. So we
yeah.
always kind of so tell them that, hey, it's always the problem that you have to start with. It's always the identifying the right use case, the problem set, the data. I mean, whatever you're looking to achieve out of it. And
Yeah.
then any technology can come in. I mean, we have seen cases where people are going like that. We need an agentic system, we need an autonomous system, and then you can just apply simple workflow-based concepts and the problem gets resolved and it's fixed. Then we've seen a lot of times where you're bolting on this AI stuff, and then the problem really lights, and the fact that there was somebody who was supposed to, do XYZ and he's not doing it, hence the problem still, is there.
You have to foster a culture of excited adventure. You have to. You have to
Mm,
foster this
mm.
culture that says, we don't know yet what we're going to uncover. And by the way, it's changing almost every single day. So we need all of you to keep abreast every day of recent announcements. You need the most current announcements. You need to keep experimenting. You got to keep challenging yourself and don't think that you've got the best solution because you probably don't now. It's changed. And just keep reinventing over and over again. And our team believes that and they love it. So we compel them to set aside time on their calendar literally every single day to go read and learn.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
they often come down, they say, hey, I read this. And we say, we don't want you to just pass on a tip. Download it,
yeah,
test it, give us benchmarks, tell us what you learned. So you have to foster a culture of wonder, honestly. Let me just give you that tagline. Foster a culture of wonder about AI and let them go, what are we going to discover today? Like,
yeah.
in what way are we going to change something today? And if you give that expectation, people find it often. That's what's
Yeah,
exciting.
that's true. Can you
Yeah.
share one AI use case that you feel has been a real, what's the word, a real workhorse, and something that you would say that this was great. I mean, this really turned out
I mean,
really awesome.
I've got so many. You're asking
Several.
for one. Number one,
Top one.
coding. Number
Okay.
one, we're a
Code.
software company. You don't need to understand a language in depth anymore. You don't need to be a Python expert to write Python. You don't need to go learn R, right? You know who knows it? The LLMs. What you need to do is understand software architecture, what makes a solid commercially ready software product, and you need to guide the AI to do that for you. Your time to market is so much better. It's incredible.
Faster and better. Yeah,
And it gives you superpowers. Before, we used to
correct.
divide people by language, kind of like spoken language, but also coding language. It's like, oh, you know R, he knows Python. Go talk to, he's a Java guy. Go talk to, not anymore. We don't need that anymore. Number two is clearly anything written in any
Yes.
language, by the way, any language,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so we've
That's
got,
true.
we've created from scratch in the last year two brand new AI products, one called My Personas and one called
Okay.
Eloquence. And both of
Okay.
those products, they're commercially available, they're out in the market, people are using them. My Personas creates an AI clone of a person, not an avatar, but a clone of somebody that you know. So, for example, if you go to our website, ignitetech.ai, you'll click on the little My Personas logo and you'll talk to Suchi Ramos, who is our chief commercial officer. And she can answer all kinds of questions about Ignite Tech, about our product. And here's the cool thing about My Personas. If you ask Suchi a question and its AI doesn't know it, it'll go ask Suchi directly. And Suchi will then answer that question, give it back to the person that's interacting with it, and then update the knowledge of the AI. So the next time that question is asked, it'll know the answer. And that's all patented technology, that this self-learning, constantly expanding knowledge. That's My Personas. And this other
So it
product,
creates my digital twin or digital clone,
creates your
kind of.
digital twin.
Yeah.
100% creates your
Yeah.
digital
Yeah.
twin, but has this learning capability, right? Which is really quite remarkable. Then we've got this other product called Eloquence AI. Eloquence AI is a persona, but it is an email persona. So there's all kinds of use cases. Somebody sends in an email asking a question, the email persona answers always in perfect language, 160 languages that it speaks, so it's multilingual, and it's always very much on point, and it can go back and forth with interaction with those with the people on the email. What's the use case? I don't know where there isn't a use case. Let me just take one. Events. Every single event, whether it's a marathon, to go back to our running theme, or it's a upcoming AI conference, the same thing happens to the organizers about 2 weeks out. They start getting being inundated with the same questions over and over and over and over again. When does it start? Can I see the agenda? Where should I stay? I'd like to be a sponsor. Oh my God, these poor organizers. Even though they published all that information, four ways
There will
to,
still be people ask.
oh,
Yeah.
everybody just asks the same questions and they can't keep up and they lose their minds. Well, what if you didn't have to do that? You could just ask the my persona. And it's like, here's where you stay, and here's a discount code. And yes, there are group discounts or whatever. That's just one use case. And we use it
Yeah.
internally. For example, we just acquired a company 4 weeks ago, a company called Chorus, KHOROS. And we immediately set up an Eloquence ID, which is chorus at ignitetech.ai, for customers to ask all kinds of questions. What does this mean? What are the plans for the product? Can you tell me about the roadmap? All of that. And it has real conversations, very personal, always bespoke. They're not templates. It's really quite remarkable. So all of those
Okay.
use cases really change the game.
So talking about acquisitions and mergers, I believe you've done more than, I mean, you have a good experience in doing those. And then you earlier before we started the podcast, you were also sharing this story about M&A evaluations and everything. So my question is kind of related to that as well. But where a company claims to be AI powered, what are the red signals that you kind of look into, which, that the capabilities might be more branding than really reality? So separating the hype from what actually the product is. How do you kind of go about it? How do you do some due diligence? And
I mean, in the enterprise market, we really just look for a couple of markers that are important. Number one, we look for retention. Retention is an indication what customers feel about the product in its current
Mm,
state and have over the last few years. That's probably the most important barometer we look at. We don't look at profitability because we always know how to make things operationally profitable. That's what we do. We're really good at it. We look at retention. We don't look at any software now with this AI lens and not see AI potential. I mean, there's no software that you should look at and say, yeah, there's nothing you could do with AI. There's room to
right.
change that everywhere, right? So yeah.
But a lot of software nowadays are more like wrappers over GPT. How do you kind of see how can products really then differentiate? I guess data could be one thing. You have proprietary data, but I mean, yeah. So that's what the trend I'm seeing nowadays as well. A lot of AI startups that are coming up, and I mean, even Perplexity started as a wrapper to ChatGPT. It
That's right.
grew, but right.
Yeah.
So how do you see or determine that a product can really go beyond a wrapper, or is it really a
Yeah, but we're
wrapper?
yeah, we're not buying AI companies. That's not what we're doing. We're buying
Okay,
enterprise software companies that have existing customer bases, revenue streams, history, and then we're bringing our AI innovation to that. We're not buying hype. We're not buying ideas. We're buying
fair enough.
software companies that we can validate have an existing market, like Chorus. Chorus has this marvelously passionate customer base. The core product they have is a community. We're all familiar with communities, like the
Yes.
extension of brand support, where you go out and different people in the community answer questions and interact with users. And it's not the company. That's their core product, that and brand care, taking care of, the messaging around brand out there, like on social media and the like. Really passionate customer base, we've learned. In the community space in particular, there are people that regard themselves as community people. I didn't know that until we bought Chorus. They've come out in droves since the acquisition. It's great. We love it. Love the passion. And we're bringing an AI lens to everything that we see there, and we've got some great ideas. For example,
Awesome.
on Perplexity, communities often work well by finding articles on a community in a Google search. But what happens if they show up in a Perplexity search now? Are they the right articles? Are they
Mm.
attributed back to the brand in any way, shape, or form, or is it masked because it's in an answer engine, right? So we need to create discoverability in answer engines, not just search engines like Perplexity, and that's part of our AI plans.
So I guess data is one big factor that can really differentiate you, right? So organizations that have access to good proprietary data can automatically now build really strong AI applications because that's the biggest factor that comes into play. Is that a correct assumption?
Well, we look at data as, of course, golden and super important, but we've got a strategy where we build what we call an AI PI. So instead of an API, it's an AI PI. And what that
Okay.
is a gateway, a mapping, if you will, to the data that's downstream that AI knows how to interact with. So the key is we've got data in these enterprise software products that we acquire and we have that's locked up in certain databases. Could be Oracle, could be MySQL, who knows what. You don't want to teach AI how to do that all discreetly. So we write this interface called an AI PI, which allows you to interact with that data and do things with it. That's very similar to Anthropic's MCP definition.
Okay.
MCP is oftentimes a strategy in our AI PI, but that's the basic lens. So yeah, that's how you unlock
Yeah.
data,
Okay. Awesome.
years worth of data that is unbelievably valuable. How can you feed that into AI? That's our
Right.
strategy.
Right. Coming to AI agents and autonomous workflows, we're looking at a lot of organizations, a lot of entrepreneurs, two-person teams, three-person teams, taking businesses from 0 to 40,000 ARR, MMR, or let's say 0 to 2 million ARRs or 10 million ARRs. And how, based on your experience so far, how realistic is it really to build a business using AI agents in such a short time? I mean, do you think that this rapid AI-driven growth is an exception, or it will really become a norm in the next 2, 3 years, putting
Yes,
it out?
100% believe
Okay,
that. 100% believe that. I don't think it's an anomaly at all. I think we're just starting to figure that out. It's got nothing to do with agents. Agents is just the latest concept of that. But this
correct.
idea of AI enabling so-called solopreneurs or 1 billion, one person, $1 billion companies. I don't know if it's a billion. That just, that gets a lot of
That's,
attention.
yeah,
But you can write scalable software using AI. You can build a scalable software company using AI if you approach it that way, right? I 100% believe that. And we're going to see that. More importantly, we're going to see very large company, substantial revenue in the billions be completely displaced by these companies. We're going to see it happen. You could just pick a name, public company, Fortune 50, who thinks that they're fat and happy and it's all fine. They've got this locked up. No, we're going to see major displacement, not disruption, but like destruction of an existing market with existing companies. And they're not going to know what hit them. They're going to be like, what the hell? This is why we're out talking on podcasts, on shows, on at events to say, don't let that happen to you. If you do, we told you it was going to happen. Don't let it happen to you.
are you talking about big tech companies or generally enterprises or businesses in general?
Everything.
Because big tech company is under threat, which is the reason they're on this
Big
buying
tech
buying
for
spree
sure.
all the time, right? So
Big tech for sure. Yeah, big tech for sure. Yeah, I mean, look at what, the challenge that Perplexity created for Google. I mean,
correct.
it
Yes.
actually has affected it. It
Yes.
actually has,
Yes.
right?
I think ever
Going to
since their
happen.
existence, this is the first time that Google, there's something that has really come that
Yep.
can, displace Google, which is why they're on this buying spree as well, right? So they want to make sure they grab the tech, they grab the people, and they have the money coming in. So yeah, that's what it is.
It's an arms race to a large extent. It's similar
Yes.
to an arms race as it relates to tech. So the last time we saw anything like that was the .com time frame
Correct.
in the beginning of 2000. I hate to say that because everybody hears .com and all they think of is .com bubble. Okay, I get that. Yeah, and we all know that, right? I mean, there were lots of us. I don't see that happening this time. I don't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't see it bursting. I don't see that happening.
The
But the
bubble,
arms race.
yeah, correct. So the bubble might not burst, but there will be smaller bubbles that get busted out, right? So,
Could
for
be,
instance,
sure. Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
smaller startups, they get wiped out once GPT, OpenAI releases something, and they instantly get wiped out because obviously they don't have the distribution as much as OpenAI and ChatGPT would be. All
Right.
right.
Or
So
or Anthropic. Like, can't ever leave
on
Anthropic
Anthropic,
out of this
correct.
conversation. I mean, they're
Yes,
doing
that's
some
true.
great work right now. I mean,
Correct.
you've really kind of got the big three right now: OpenAI, Anthropic, and
Anthropic
Llama, and Meta's Llama, and of
and
course,
Gemini.
and Gemini. Yeah, that's right. Sorry,
Yes.
big four.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
four. You're
Big
right.
four,
You're right.
four.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you
It's just
include
that
Amazon,
Gemini. Forget Gemini because it was called Bard, and that didn't make any sense. And they misfired so badly when they started. They've now made up for it. So you're right. I'm sorry. I have to remember
yeah.
Gemini.
Yeah. So you have Facebook, I think Llama,
Llama.
Apple's Apple Intelligence. You have Amazon's, I don't know what Amazon's is.
Well, Amazon's heavily invested in Anthropic, of course. They're
Anthropic,
the
of
pri-
course. Yes.
they're
They're
the
the primary
primary
investor.
investor in
Right.
Anthropic,
So you
right?
have
So
Anthropic or Claude, Amazon over there. You have
yep,
Microsoft with OpenAI, and
yep.
then you have OpenAI, and then you have other, Perplexity and all these guys as well. So, but yeah, absolutely. So so if in a business, I'm a business owner, I'm an enterprise, and I had to build an AI team that from scratch, inside a company which is kind of stuck in the existing ways, and what are the first 5 seats that you'd fill, or first three, whatever, and how would you kind of construct that team structure?
So, I mean, I could tell you exactly what I did. The very first thing I did was hire the anchor to that, who now I call my chief AI officer. I've built everything around that role and that person. And not only that, we changed the organization completely. So we changed it from having traditional reporting, so like finance reporting to the CFO, marketing reporting to the CMO. All those people report into the CAIO. All of them, the entire
Wow.
org.
Okay. So
Now,
the entire hierarchy
yeah,
gets
yeah, yeah.
changed.
But to be clear, what they have is a very strong dotted line to their domain owner. So they still report to the CFO and a dotted line. They still report to the CMO in a dotted line. So those business owners, those domain owners, they're the ones that say, here's what we want to do. The AI team helps them figure out how. So that way we share amongst the entire organization the AI learnings, the things we've already written, the things we've already built to make certain that across the entire org, best practices are being used. Otherwise, you end up with the finance team wrote their little AI thing, the marketing team wrote their little AI, and we did that to start with. We did that, and then we said, okay, that was good, but not pretty soon people were writing the same thing but different ways, and that was maybe good in the beginning, but now we're like, let's bring all the ideas together and gel it. If you look at my org chart, it literally has the CAIO and the entire org reporting in, not from an HR standpoint, from an AI guidance standpoint.
So I know you gave that piece of advice that it has to come from the top. Other than that, what's one other advice that you'd like to give to CEOs who are diving into AI to make sure their team doesn't just buy into the technology, but also the vision behind it?
It's the phrase that I often use, and I'll just repeat it. If you don't think you're behind, if you think you're behind, good. If you don't think behind, you're toast. You're doomed. You're doomed, honestly. So get your head out of the sand. Don't act like this is a passing fad. Don't act like this is going away. It's not. You're going to wake up one day displaced. You're going to be,
Right.
your company or you or both are going to be looking and wonder what happened. I just believe that to my core. And it's proving out over the last couple of years, right? So
Yeah. All
we're
right. So it's a
yeah.
do or die situation.
It is. It's an existential threat, and I don't believe that's hyperbole, not at all.
To close on a personal note, you've led turnaround, scaled companies, you've embraced constant change. What's the one hard lesson in leadership or life that's kind of stayed with you through it all? Running ultra marathons, everything.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a joy and it's a privilege to lead. I don't manage, I lead. That's my philosophy. It's what I ask my people to be leaders, not managers. If you've hired the people that are aligned with your culture and aligned with the way you think, I think for the most part, you've got that opportunity. I'm excited every day. I love what I do. I always have. I'm a passionate believer in our company and the way we're structured and the way we're doing it. It's not perfect. Sometimes things don't work, but we figure it out. This is an opportunity to really shape the future, not only of people, but of the industry. And it's just super exciting to be a part of. So, yeah, I think
That's
everybody should
awesome.
feel that way wherever they are, honestly. So,
Yeah, absolutely. You
yeah.
should find the passion in your work. I mean, I do believe that, that constant pressure that, do something that you're passionate about a little bit. I don't
Or-
believe it in a lot because a lot of times it's hard to find, it's hard to box that you're passionate. I mean, I might be passionate about singing, right? But still,
Yeah.
it's very hard to at times box it into something of which I can make money, of which I can make a life of. So a lot of times you kind of start learning to love what you do automatically to a certain extent. So that kind of
Yeah.
grows there
I,
as
I,
well.
I'd say it's slightly different. Instead of searching for that which you're passionate about, I would say be passionate about anything you do or just don't do it. Like
Yes. Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
just pass on.
That's true.
Like,
Correct.
otherwise you're going to get less than, the best results that you possibly can, right? So
Correct.
yeah,
That's true.
I've been fortunate in that way. It's the way I've felt, professionally and even personally. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, Eric, been awesome having you today. Like I said, I knew about marathons, but never about ultra marathons. So that's a good learning that I take away. Besides, how you've kind of implemented changes across your org and done for other organization, it was really pleasure kind of talking to you and us, talking about this AI first transformations and everything.
Yeah, I
So,
enjoyed it too. Thank you. Thanks,
all
Asha.
right.